Hi everyone, today we'll be tearing down the Sightmark T5 magnifier. This is going to be very similar to the T3. For starting, I like to take this mount off. You technically don't have to. It's not really in the way of anything, and I'm sure you can figure this out, but it's a 3mm Allen wrench. So there is your magnifier. Now, I printed my own tools for this. Worst case scenario, if you're really careful, you can use a flathead. I don't recommend it, though I'm about to do it, because if you slip on that, you're going to scratch your glass. But you're going to take this front retaining ring out right here. If you need to remove it, you'll continue that, take that off. For this guy, this is the important part. There will be a retaining ring down behind your diopter here. You'll see a notch for your retaining ring. Don't back it out all the way, because that puts tension on your retaining ring and makes it hard to pull out. So once you have it in all the way, take it back in some. Take that tension off the retaining ring. And once you have this out all the way, you should be able to back this out as you need. Just make sure not to put tension on it. Oh, there we go. So just keep unscrewing. I think, yeah, there we go. Pops right out. This is what the diopter looks like for it. On the inside here is your prism assembly. Back out these adjusting tabs, whatever you want to call them. These are also 3mm. So what you'll do is back these out all the way. Now they have a lock washer on the inside that keeps the screw from, well, coming out, and that also assists in removing the tab itself. So when we pull this out, down in here you're going to see the orientation of the spring. There we go. And how that holds it up against both of those. Pliers up. Okay, there it is. So you just pull up on the front and then out. Slides right out. Down in here you've got another retaining ring. Just slide that out. So here's your prism assembly. It came out just like this. I don't recommend taking this apart. If you have to, on the back side toward your forward end of your magnifier, this is your retaining ring that holds these two pieces of prism glass together. Sightmark does not have extras of these to replace, so the only reason you would tear into this is, one, for cleaning, or two, this lock nut or retaining ring has come loose. Then the only thing left on this is at the front end, which you would undo this retaining ring. Once you have it loose enough, you can just kind of press it into the palm of your hand. This one's still really well seated in there, so I'm not going to pull that all the way out, but there's the retaining ring for reference. This is your magnifier taken down for the most part, minus this front glass. One of the things you might have to do is get into this diopter. Now you have two pieces of glass in here. One you have just like that, curved on one end, flat on the other. Flat goes toward the inside of your body, curved goes toward your eye. Then there is a retaining assembly in here. Note how that sits. Throw it in there. Now these don't sit fully perfectly in there. There's some wiggle. But yeah, this guy should just push out toward you. But I don't recommend taking it out. You can clean it perfectly well from here on both sides. Now to why you would want to take this apart in the first place. I had an issue with sight picture movement, which I can put on screen now. And this was due to retaining rings being loose inside the assembly. Specifically, I had this one that was loose, and I had my prism that was loose on my T3. Now, what was happening in mine, and this is going to be different for everyone, in the T5, this nut was loose, causing this glass, since this isn't perfect in there, you can even hear it rattle. That little movement caused my entire sight picture to move around when I was dry firing, making follow-up shots completely doable but inconvenient, more annoying than anything. It didn't truly impede the use of my gun, but then again, with a failing retaining ring, I don't know how long until it falls out entirely on the inside of the assembly. So I do recommend, if you've got one of these and you're very DIY and you're having that issue, go in, throw some Loctite or whatever thread locker you prefer on those retaining rings. I will say one of the things they warned against, which I totally understand and agree with, is if you are going to take this apart and lock down your retaining rings with your own kind of sealant or Loctite, whatever, you will want to be careful that if you get it on the glass, they obviously can't cover that. And I don't know what it would take to get that off without potentially damaging the glass. Other than that, this has worked great for being a budget magnifier. This has lived through FRT lowers, so essentially simulating full auto, and I haven't had issues other than this sight picture movement. So with that being said, if you tear this apart, you're going to get grime and dirt on your lenses. You're going to get dust on the inside of your optic, so be careful. Make sure you clean it well. If you're going to thread lock anything, first thread lock this guy in, because you can still get in on each side and clean each end of this with these lenses out. But as soon as you thread lock these guys in, if you've got a particle of dust in there, you're gonna see it on a really nice day. And so I don't recommend thread locking until you're confident you've got it as clean as you can be. Like, put on gloves, get a higher percentage rubbing alcohol, make sure you're not leaving films in there. Now a quick recap on reassembly, even though the video is here and you can just reverse steps. This lock ring, kind of fatter, locks that guy in. This guy locks in the front, sits right over that, and then you'll put this down in and lock it down, and then this has to sit, there's a lip in here that has to sit onto. I'll show you that now. There is that lip right there that the curved inside has to sit on, just like that. I do recommend doing that after, because if you're trying to tighten this down with this in there, it's a pain. And how it sits on here, I'm still unsure of. I guess watch for that when you take yours apart, because I gotta be honest, I didn't look for that when I took this apart the first time, and this is not the first time I've taken this apart. So I put it back together, and I don't trust telling you guys one way or the other. I imagine it probably matters. I would just say don't set it here. If you set it here, I'm worried that you're gonna, actually it looks like you probably can't, but I'm worried that you'll come in some kind of contact with this side of it, which is open, and this is just a piece of plastic in here, if I'm not mistaken, with your prisms on the other side, and I would hate to unintentionally shatter glass. I don't know actual proper sizings for this. The 3D print file I have for this really only does one lock ring. It does this one as well on the front of the prism setup, but it doesn't do it that well. So if there's any questions you guys have, feel free to leave a comment. I'll see if it's something I can answer. I'm gonna go ahead and deep clean all this, and I will put it back together and see you guys on maybe the next one. Alright, one last update on this. I just got this in today, which is kind of crazy timing, but this is the T3 that Sightmark just sent me as a replacement for mine. I had sent mine in due to a chipped prism on the inside, so that was another issue I ran into with these. I'm not sure how it happened or when it happened, because I bought mine in like 2019, and for them to warranty it 6 years later is pretty whack, and thank you Sightmark for that one. I did want to mention this though, because there is a difference on the older models versus the current models. Retaining ring, just like my T5, like I've been talking about in this video. My T3 did not have that. I don't know when it changed. But just a heads up, if you've got one that does not have the retaining ring, you back it out, and then you just have to keep backing it out. It'll hit a kind of what feels like a wall. I don't know if it's thread locker or what, but eventually it will go through that. It's super tough, but that's how I got mine out, at least. So just a heads up there in case you've got an older model. That is allegedly, from my experience, how you take that apart.